What's up YouTube, Demi here with another build guide. This is for a TINKERSKIN Lightning Trap Saboteur with the newly buffed Ascendancies. This is amazing. I'm also using Eldritch Battery due to some cool mechanics with TINKERSKIN, but I'm going to go ahead and roll a, I don't know, we'll do like a T11 map or something. Let's do shaped atoll, sure. But the character is designed to be fairly fast for mapping and pretty safe. Good single target potential with the trap cooldown spam we get from being a Saboteur and being TINKERSKIN and having the Helm Enchant, which is like our traps. Look how fast I can throw these traps. Like that's on cooldown, that's how fast I throw, that's pretty good. But yeah, the mechanic that I'm talking about is TINKERSKIN says we gain life and mana when a trap is triggered by an enemy. Or sorry, life and energy shield. Because I have Eldritch Battery, I get energy shield I spend energy shield instead of mana for skill costs, and it protects mana instead of life. So every time I throw a set of 4 into a set of mobs, and they explode when the enemies step on them, I get 200 ES back, which pays for my mana cost plus 135. So I can just spam forever as long as I'm throwing them on enemies. Go ahead and show you what that means. So look, if you look at my ES, as soon as it explodes, it just fills back up. And I can just do this all day. We have automated frenzy and power charge generation by by some of the nodes we take on the tree. We just like run through the map, shield charge through things to get your fortify, whatever. I have Evolve Clarity, so I can not worry about it at all on boss fights. You don't need to use it while mapping though. Generally not even in boss fights, but yeah. With the Eldritch Battery thing over our mana, it allows us to reserve 100% of our mana. So I'm using Wrath, Herald of Ice, Herald of Thunder for maximum meme deeps, and the shatters are really nice. You don't have to deal with like porcupines and whatnot, because porcupines are stupid. Whoa, okay, that hurt. Was that porcupines? Damn, I might have spoken too soon. But yeah, I'm using phase acro as well. Acro, so I have a little bit of dodge. I'm using phasing from my chest. Gives me even more dodge chance. And here's our single target potential. We just kind of chuck traps at the boss until it dies. Like that. Fairly smooth, fairly easy. Great mapper. You can level this lightning trap from the very beginning. You get it at like, I think you get it at like level 6 or something. So just use that and run with it forever. Great league starter, great endgame farmer for maps. I would not recommend it for pure single target situations. Like I wouldn't say do Elder with this build by any means, but the new Saboteur is really nice. The life regen from throwing traps and mines is pretty freaking good. Sustain. Like, I don't have any regen on my tree, but you can see how much regen I'm getting just by throwing my traps. TINKERSKIN's life whenever our traps trigger as well is great. You don't need any special expensive flasks or anything like that. I'm just using a Wise Oak and In-Series Promise, which is probably like 10C maybe total. No specific uniques other than TINKERSKIN, which is pretty great. And of course, until you get TINKERSKIN, you can just use a rare and not use the Eldritch Battery node. But the Saboteur Ascendancy, the reason why it's so good now is we have just everything is good. Before it was basically just chain reaction, but I'll just go in order. Explosive Expert. Actually, let's in order of what you should get first. Perfect Crime. You go for this first. You get cooldown recovery speed for throwing traps, which reduces the amount of time between each throw. And you get damage for each trap. You get 20% chance for traps to trigger an additional time. So if I throw 4 traps per thing, we got a pretty good chance that they're going to trigger twice occasionally, which means they just explode twice, which is great. They also changes the way traps work this patch in 3.2, so that when you throw traps, after 4 seconds they expire and they just explode automatically. Like that. So that's pretty cool. It used to be like 15 seconds and they would just break and wouldn't explode, so that's dumb. But this is great. Huge amount of damage, and then in Cruel Lab you go for your chain reaction. This is really important. It's even more cooldown recovery speed, but the really good thing here is when your traps trigger, your nearby traps also trigger. So if I throw 11 traps at an enemy, and an enemy steps on one of them, in a circle around that trap they all trigger and just delete whatever touched it. It's pretty cool. That's like your engine. It feels great. It means every trap explodes every time you have any trap explode, basically. It's very solid. And after that, you probably want to go for, I would say, Pyromaniac, because you have immunity to ignites, immunity to shocks, and you get 1% life regen per second for each of your traps triggered recently, up to 20%. 25% reduced mana cost of skills that place mines or throw traps. So this gives us a maximum of 20% life regen. And as you can see, I actually have 0 life regen right now, but with this 20%, I could go up to 1.1k life regen on a build that is not designed for that much life regen, but I just get it. And then your last ones, you would just pick up Explosive Expert, gives you some LE damage, some all res, and some area damage. Damage penetrates 10% resistances, which is really important for us. 10% reduced damage from traps and mines is like lab traps, mines from enemies, traps from enemies, whatever. You take less damage from those as well. It's pretty great. Skill tree is fairly simple. Let's see if I can do this in order of what you would take while leveling. You're generally going to prioritize life stuff though, so I would say you take all these LE damage nodes, grab your life nodes, grab these, and then you probably pick up this. You can throw a bunch more traps at a time. Then you're going to want to head over here, grab these life nodes, and then go over here, grab these crit nodes and these life nodes and these life nodes, and then you're going to start filling out some deeps. So this is your power charge generation. You get crit multi, we're crit, so we just use a lot of crit stuff here. You get power charges whenever your trap is triggered by an enemy. Great. I don't actually know how to do this in order of leveling, so I'm not sure after that. I think you go over here and down here and then take all this mine nodes and life nodes. You're basically going to take all the life nodes on the tree before you start taking a bunch of crit multi nodes. Grab all the life nodes, all the mine specific damage nodes, trap specific nodes, sorry, and then you're going to pick up all the crit nodes, all the power charges, and then phase aggro whenever you want. But yeah, other engines is, this is your power charge generation, sorry. This is your frenzy charge generation down here. You get 50% chance to gain a frenzy whenever your trap is triggered by an enemy. I will have the paste bin for this character in the description below for Path of Building. For those that don't know how to use Path of Building, just look up Path of Building, download it, install it. It's a program that looks like this. And it allows you to import characters into it and see their builds, right? So I'll be showing you this character, which is called Lemon's Pledge. If you have anybody's profile, you can just link them at any point. But Lemon's Pledge, import passive tree and jewels, import skill into trees, whatever. For you, the paste bin, you'll just click this button right here and copy paste the link from the description of the video into this, and you'll be able to pull up the character. So power, frenzies, crit strike chances, lucky, enemy is shocked. We have detonated, let's do 8 traps recently. Attacked. What else is there that would give us damage? I think that's it. We have fortified. And then our flask should be active. And our lightning trap damage is 146k per projectile. This is a projectile based skill. It's a projectile, trap, spell, duration, and lightning. The duration is just how long the trap lasts, though. You don't want to worry about that. So it's a lightning projectile, basically. And each trap throws 8 projectiles, and each one of those projectiles can pierce because we have pierce support. So when you're throwing a bunch of traps around an enemy, they all explode and they can all hit the same enemy. So I could potentially hit an enemy 11 times with each throw, which means my damage would be somewhere around, I don't know, 2 million damage. It's quite a lot of damage, and my gear is not particularly good in my standards, so this is a fairly budget character right now. But yeah, here's your skill tree. You just pick up a bunch of crit stuff. As for jewels we can talk about. They give you a lot of damage if you have good jewels, right? So priority is you need to get life first. Always go for life first. I just realized I'm on my stream overlay instead of my recording overlay, my bad. You want life first. After that, you go for anything that scales lightning trap. So you can go for projectile damage, lightning damage, spell damage while holding a shield, trap damage, crit multi with lightning, crit multi with elemental, crit multi with spells. Trap throwing speed is pretty good. But like, there's a ton of options for things that scale our damage. You just want to pick up any of those. Global crit multi, global damage. Like, my jewels are not particularly good. I think this is the only really good one, and the rest of them are like life damage, like life 1 damage roll, life 1 damage. This is life 1 damage, life 1 damage. Like, I could get a ton more damage. That's life 1 damage as well. You want jewels that look like this, basically. Like, triple multi would be ideal. Spell multi with lightning and life, but my jewels are mediocre. My gear is mediocre. As we talked about earlier, the only unique that I'm wearing is a TINKERSKIN. TINKERSKIN gives you more cooldown recovery speed. It gives you frenzy charges generation. It gives you phasing whenever your traps are triggered, so you can walk through enemies. You get 100 life whenever a trap is triggered, and 50 ES whenever a trap is triggered, which gives you your mana back. Other than that, you're wearing rare items. So you can go for a rare dagger or a rare scepter. If you went for a sandbar scepter, which is the elemental penetration implicit, that'd probably be the best bet, or a crit dagger with the highest implicit crit, so 50% would be on a Chris base would be better. But yeah, prioritize spell damage and then added damage to spells, and crit for spells and crit multi. Attack speed means your shield charge is faster. The reason we go for daggers or scepters is so we can use shield charge as our movement skill. But this dagger has spell damage, lightning, crit multi, attack speed, which is more or less everything we wanted. As for your shield, go for a rare with spell damage and life on it, and then if you can get spell crit and resistances on top of that, great. Always prioritize resistances and life before anything else to make sure that you're capped on resist, otherwise you'll just die randomly, and then go for damage after that. Helmet, same thing. I have life resist. This is actually a really bad helmet. Helmet enchant, I went for the cooldown recovery speed so that I can just throw on cooldown, as we saw at the beginning of the video. You can also go for pierce chance if you want, but I prefer this one. Gloves, life resist, stats if you need strength or dex or whatever, grab it here. You will need a fair amount of strength for this character to use your red jewels, so I have strength on my 2 rings, I think that's all I have, and a little bit on my amulet. But rings, you go for life resist, stats. Life resist, stats. If you can get more damage on top of that, you could go for like shaped rings with spell damage, crit multi from like essences. If you go for opal rings, they're probably your best overall damage, but my rings are pretty shit for this character. They just give me the stats I need. Amulet. So you want to prioritize life, stats, resist as always, whatever you need first. After that, you can go for spell damage, crit multi, crit strike chance. What else can you get that would make sense? If you have an Elder Amulet with life recovery rate, sorry, not life recovery rate. Elder Amulet with non-chaos added as chaos is a huge amount of more damage for us. Pretty good. Belt, same thing. Life resist. If you can grab a Stygian belt, in your Stygian vise, you can use a jewel that has life and then damage to spells. If you get a little bit of cold damage to spells somewhere, I currently get it from my Herald of Ice. It allows you to shatter enemies more reliably, so you don't have to deal with on-death effects like porcupines or corpse explosions, because there's no corpses, they're all shattered. That's great. And then boots, life resist movement speed, as always. If you're having issues with stuns, you can use Calm's Roots if you really needed to, but I would not recommend that because you lose the links. And then enchants, helm enchant, I talked about. Glove enchant, commandment of winter or commandment of deception. Winter is a projectile AoE spell that does a lot of damage at crits frequently, and it's cold damage, so it like freezes enemies as it goes through them. So if something touches you, they get hit by this projectile, it then kills them or perma-freezes them so that you can kill them. Pretty good defensively. And then the command of deception, I think is what it's called. It spawns a copy of yourself that acts as a decoy, basically. Pretty good defensive bonus for a trapper. Boot enchant, you have 2 options. You can go, actually 3 options. You can go for regen if you've been hit recently. You can go for lightning damage if you haven't killed recently, which is all the time. Since we're using traps, the traps kill things, not us. So you get this bonus all the time. You can go for elemental penetration if you haven't killed recently. Same thing, damage all the time, you never kill anything. Oh, there's a 4th option. You can also go for increased crit if you haven't killed recently, which is the same thing. You don't kill anything, you get the bonus all the time. It'll apply the crit to your traps. My crit chance is 59% and 512 multi without power charges. So I think with power charges, I go up to 72% crit with the Diamond Flask, which gives us effectively 93% crit and 512 multi. Pretty dumb. Pretty solid. So main links, this is actually not the optimal damage setup, but it is comfortable for me, so I use it. Lightning Trap, Pierce. Pierce allows our projectiles to go through enemies, so we can hit more enemies with our traps. Good for clearing. I use a Lightning Pen, increased crits, cluster traps, and trap and mine damage. If I were to do these in order of priority, it would be Lightning Trap, cluster trap, trap and mine damage, increased crits, and then after that I would go for Pierce and then Lightning Pen. So that would be your 4 link and then your 5-6 link. Other links, since we're using Eldritch Battery, we can reserve all of our mana. I'm using Wrath, which gives us more spell lightning damage, which is just a straight up more multiplier for us. Herald of Thunder gives you a bunch of flat lightning to spells, and then Herald of Ice gives you a bunch of flat cold to spells, so you can shatter. If you don't like these 2, you can use any other aura. If you don't have your TINKERSKIN Eldritch Battery engine yet, then just take out Herald of Thunder most likely, and then just use a mana pot. Other links, I have Shield Charge, Faster Attacks, Fortify. Fortify gives us 20% less damage taken from hits, and Faster Attacks makes it faster, so that's really good. What else is there? I have a bunch of random other links that you don't really need. So I have a Cast Damage Taken setup. Cast Damage Taken, Immortal Call, Ice Golem, and Enfeeble. Ice Golem gives us crit strike chance, which is great. If you want to go faster with your Shield Charge, you can use a Lightning Golem in this slot for the attack speed. If you want more just generic damage, you can use a Flame Golem. If you want Fizz Mitigation, Chaos Golem. If you want life regen, use a Stone Golem. All of those work. Basically every Golem works. So pick whatever one you want to use. I'm using an Ice Golem. And then Enfeeble, if something hits us for a lot of damage, I wanted to curse them so they do less damage, have less chance to hit, and less chance to crit multi, all of those things. This is actually the strongest defensive buff in the game, so if you can fit it into your setup as a fairly squishy trapper, it's probably a good idea. After that, I have a increased duration vol clarity setup. This is pretty much not needed anymore with the TINKERSKIN setup. I wasn't using Eldritch Battery before, so I was using this for bosses, but you don't really need this anymore. So you could potentially have a free 4-link. I have a decoy totem, which I guess could be in here. Totally free 4-link for whatever you want. You could put in a Vol Haste. You could put in some mean cast when damage taken setups, like cast when damage taken, Arctic Breath, GMP, increased duration, just to cause a bunch of chilled ground or something. Totally up to you. And then as for the other random links, I have a Flame Dash, basically just to get up and down ledges. You don't need that. I have a Portal Gem, because I don't like using Portal Scrolls, and then I have a faster casting conductivity for when we're fighting bosses and they're attacking our decoy totem. I can just cast this curse on them, give them negative 44% lightning res, which gives us 40% more damage, so the enemy dies faster while it's distracted. But yeah, overall, it's pretty solid. We got Fortify, we got Phase Acro for a bunch of dodge chance. We have resistances being capped, and we're just fast. We kill things and then move on to the next pack. Flasks, fairly simple. You want a Life Flask with bleed immunity, you want a freeze immunity, diamond flask, and you want a Quicksilver Flask with movement speed on it. After that, uniques. This is probably like chaos. Prioritize LE damage and extra chaos damage, because that's the most damage. You don't get anything from the fizz damage, extra chaos. You also get chaos res here, which is great. And then Wise Oak, you're going to want to prioritize the elemental penetration roll, get as high as you can. And then when you look at your resistances, make sure that your lightning res is the highest number in the parentheses here with all of your flasks up. So with all of my flasks up, I'm at 184 lightning res, which translates into getting the maximum penetration from our Wise Oak, and we take less damage from fire damage, the lowest one. If you can max all of these to be exactly the same, then you will get penetration for all 3 elements and reduced damage taken for all 3 elements, which is really strong, defensively and offensively, but I haven't bothered to do that on this character. It's up to you if you want to min-max that hard. But yeah, as you can see, when I use this flask, my lightning pen goes from 57 to 77% pen, which translates to if an enemy has say an enemy has 100% resistances in this number, their max res would be 75, and you would penetrate them down to -2. So you would deal 4 times the damage plus a little bit more. So you have to think about it in the way that, for me, for example, I have 75% res. If I get hit for 100 damage, I take 25 damage. If they had 75% pen, I would effectively have 0% resistances, so they would hit me for 100 damage, which is 4 times the 25 damage that we started out with. That's why LE res is so important, and that's why pen is so powerful. You can just more or less ignore their resistances or over-penetrate and deal more damage. If you go past that, if I had like 1000% pen, I would deal 1000% more damage. It's kind of good. And then Pantheon, so I never really talk about these because I don't really care about them. I'd recommend Cannot Be Stunned and what else is there? I don't know. You can probably choose whatever you want. Probably do Growth Cool and then capture them if you want to. But they're not super important. You can just take whatever you feel like is the best. Cannot Be Stunned is probably the most important thing, and the rest of them don't really matter. Swap them as you feel. They are totally interchangeable, and you can pick whatever you want. But yeah, I believe that's the character, Lemon's Pledge. This is a pretty quick build guide. I just finished a stream, and I'm just talking really fast. Sorry about that. But if you have any questions, come ask me on stream, or leave them in the comments below, and I will try to answer them, or somebody else will. Or you can join Discord and ask questions and help desk channel. Totally up to you. I think that's it, though. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you on stream. Subscribe, like, comment, whatever YouTube jargon, and I will see you in the next video. That'll be Demi out.